Welcome back to the Skiff. Election fraud is still alive and well, and crickets. There's a little movement with the FBI that sent some information to Colorado requesting information, and there's some information that the White House is looking at this. But I wanted to go to the source to get exactly what's going on. Chris, thank you for joining me again. You're such a wealth of information. It's a risk to you because everybody wants your time. So, but thanks for joining us. Tell us the latest.
So there was a case here in Florida. We've been working on, and it's with Jeff Bongiorno against Wendy Link, the supervisor of elections for Palm Beach County. And so today there was a hearing where the defense counsel was trying to have a pro se litigant sanctioned for typos and for misquoting some law. It was there was two little citations, and this is stuff that we've seen in all of these cases, especially from defense counsel themselves for the supervisors of elections. And one of the things was Jeff Bongiorno had filed a motion to disqualify the attorney for Wendy Link, citing that it was outside of the scope of her employment because of the allegations of fraud and official misconduct and all of these things that are outside the official scope of her duties. And
she's using taxpayer money to pay for all of it, and that was the point.
Oh yeah, $675 an hour attorney to do that. Which coincidentally, we've been filing public records requests to obtain the full legal bills, and they're refusing to hand that information over.
Just so our audience understands, she's using taxpayer money to fund her own defense, which is, if you think that she's actually fraudulent, that's illegal, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, the law is very clear. And so there's a Florida statute. It's Florida statute 111.07. And, it says that that the county will provide assistance for legal assistance if for officials in their official capacity doing their official duties. But there are exceptions, and those exceptions are misconduct and fraud and all of the things that we have been detailing in extreme volume going on in Palm Beach County. And so today, again, the attorney for the defense made quite a few misrepresentations, fraudulent misrepresentations of law and fact to the court. He kept referencing in that initial brief that had been filed by Bongiorno. And what we saw is Jeff Bongiorno had actually corrected the case law in a subsequent filing and had filed that with the court. But the attorney for the defense didn't reference that. And he kept harping on the fact that he had made an error, made a couple of, and they really weren't that big errors. They really weren't.
Yeah.
So there was also an attorney general opinion that Bongiorno had originally brought forward, and they claimed that there was no basis in that, but there was. And so we're seeing the election corruption machine in their death throes. They're very desperate to conceal their misdeeds, their official misconduct, their official corruption, and they're willing to do anything to miscategorize and fraudulently represent the facts to the court.
So there's a phenomenon going on here that the left or the election fraud cartel or whatever you want to say basically threatened all the attorneys in the state so that you can't it's very rare to get a good attorney to come in and work for you. So in these election fraud cases, so people like yourself went pro se and doing it themselves, and they've got AI now to back it up. Which got sheets of AI generate or AI supported pro state litigants that they, and this is why they're trying to sanction you. I mean, this is a big deal.
Yeah, so they're really stretching. So, we saw it in my case. We saw them really stretching. I mean, they had to, they couldn't hear, or they couldn't litigate the case based on the evidence or case law. So they resorted to rules of court procedure, which they inappropriately cited, right? And they're doing this, they're essentially doing the same thing again. I mean, this is a big deal because essentially what we have is taxpayers fighting for fair elections, and our own tax dollars are being used against us to hire these very expensive law firms.
Hired
And
guns.
hired guns, right? So, we have Gunster, which is Bonji's adversary, a guy by the name of Greg Schwinghammer. And, he's charging $675 an hour for this. And I mean, their budget, we did a public records request for the budget for Palm Beach County Supervisor of Elections. And historically, it had been, anywhere from $150,000 to $200,000 for legal fees. Well, for 2025, 2026, that number skyrocketed. It skyrocketed almost $600,000. Well, that's kind of a problem because the allegations of misconduct and fraud, I mean, they're there. I mean, we caught them actually altering election records. And and they admitted to it in a sworn affidavit. So, I mean, if that's within the scope of their duties, well, geez, what does that say about our elections? I mean,
Yeah. Breaking laws is within the scope of their duties.
yeah, well, it's all well and fine as long as they're
there. I'm not going to say it on air.
yeah.
Here's my question. This is Palm Beach County. This is Trump country. This is Mar-a-Lago. This is Team Trump. Crickets. I don't understand this. And we see it across Conservative Inc. You did have the FBI go after Colorado this week and say demanding evidence, which is progress.
Yeah.
But there is a definite desire to not see this. And why is that?
Both sides are doing it. Both sides are involved, and deals get made, deals get cut, because that's how politics works. And that's what that does is, one, it violates the guarantee clause of the United States Constitution, because we are guaranteed a constitutional republic. That's what the guarantee clause is about. So what good is the guarantee clause if we don't have one? Now, the Supreme Court has ruled previously that that's not a justiciable issue unless there's civil rights, unless there's rights violations. And we have that here because you have First Amendment right violations, you've got Fifth Amendment right violation, you've got due process violations, you get taking clause. I mean, there's a lot of rights. I mean, we have irrefutable proof, right, that voters and candidates have actually been disenfranchised. Voters' ballots, that they did everything that they were legally required to do on election day in order to vote, go out, vote, cast a ballot, and their ballots are illegally adjudicated as being 100% blank. And then we found the algorithm by which they did it. And so what do? They changed the law to try to hide it. And so they're both benefiting from it. And, it's up to us to hold them accountable, because when you don't have when the government is no longer functioning with the consent of the governed, well, that's how we got where we're at today, right?
Yes. So, free media is kryptonite to this stuff too. This is what they don't don't like. They don't like the sunlight, the transparency on this.
You
What
mean
else?
you mean Joe Rogan and Tucker Carlson and Steve Bannon? You mean they don't want to? They don't. Oh, wait, yeah, that's right. Not one of them have had me on. I wonder why. Because probably because I tell the truth. So
Well, I think we're up to 100+ times we've had Chris Gleason on. So,
yeah,
it is
and you know,
very,
I'm still waiting for somebody to actually counter anything that I've said with any basis of fact or law. How
yeah.
does So we're just gonna sweep this under the rug over here. We're
Yeah,
not gonna have him on.
that's right. That's right. Yeah, we should issue a challenge. Maybe we should start a clock. How many days Chris Gleason hasn't been on anywhere besides CDM.
Your government doesn't care about you. That's why you need a medical emergency kit. It contains life-saving medications like ivermectin, Z-Pak, and antibiotics. Stock them before they block them.
If you haven't noticed, gold has reached a new high, all-time highs actually, and keeps going up every day. Why is that? It's because precious metals are a long-time historical store of value. And if you own a portfolio and you have assets in the fiat currencies, i.e. stocks, bonds, cash, or whatever, you're vulnerable to hyperinflation, which is coming as our debt explodes another trillion every 90 days. It's really scary. So how do you protect yourself? Go to Advisor Metals. If you look on any of our CDM.press sites, about halfway down, there's an ad for Advisor Metals. Click on it, fill out the form for your contact info, and Ira Bishotsky will contact you and talk to you. It's an easy conversation. There's no sales pitch. He's completely verified by us. He has a regulatory background we've checked into. We've checked with his bankers. We've checked with his IRA custodians for metals, and we can highly recommend Advisor Metals and IRA. So go to Advisor Metals. If you call them directly, tell them we sent you at CDM, and he'll definitely take care of you. But protect your portfolio because you really need to. It's coming. Thank you. What else you got going on? What do you think of this Cash saying that Colorado has to provide information, Janet Griswold and that whole deal out there? You know much
Well,
about that?
so here's the thing, right? At the end of the day, if they can't provide or they're not providing and they're refusing to provide, okay, audit logs and forensic snapshots and these reports that are required by law, by the way, and that they're required to maintain, if they're not providing them to candidates who are challenging elections or to the FBI, right? Well, that means that they don't have a legally certified election, because in order for an election to be legally certified, it has to be legally administered. And in order for it to be legally administered, it has to be done with machines that meet the certification requirements. And one of those certification requirements is that there's an auditable record of our elections. And so if they're not providing that or refusing to provide that, or, making some nebulous claim at, state secrets where they make the auditable record where the fraud is occurring look like a Jeffrey Epstein client list, well, that's a problem.
It is a problem. What are you hearing out of like Wisconsin and some of the other states, Maryland, that you're working in? Anything going on there? I know.
So Bernegger's fighting it out with ES&S there. They're raising some issues, waiting for some more discovery. We're waiting for the actual depositions out of ES&S from Bernegger. He's filing HAVA complaints. I mean, I've filed HAVA complaints here in Florida previously. I mean, Court Bird here in Florida, he's not a good guy. We're seeing all sorts of shenanigans everywhere. Yesterday, there was something floating around with regards to the VVSG, Voluntary Voting System Guidelines 2.0, and that not one of the voting machine manufacturers complies with that. Well, I made a snark reply to somebody who had said something about that. And I said, well, they didn't comply with VVSG 1 either. And what you hear a lot of them say is, oh, well, those are just voluntary. It's voluntary. Well, the error in that thinking, right, is that these county and state organizations, these these county, these election administrators, they took federal grant money under HAVA. And if you take federal grant money under HAVA, you have to comply with the terms of the grant. Otherwise, you have committed major government fraud. And so that's what we have. We have state election administrators who would never stand up to an audit. We have machines that are completely uncertifiable. I mean, they have Chinese chipsets in them.
Yeah.
I mean, so, okay, we've got machines that have Chinese chipsets that have back doors in them that the Chinese can access remotely, or anybody who's skilled can access these things remotely and do whatever they want. They could turn the tabulators into a Pac-Man game if they wanted to.
Yeah. So where's the accountability in your mind? Actually, let me rephrase that. Has there been any accountability besides what, Cash is trying to do in Colorado? We're what, 6 months in to the Trump administration. Has there been any focus on election integrity in your mind?
In my mind, no. I mean, there's been some issues raised. You've got some stuff raised in North Carolina, but again, it's nobody really wants to deal with this issue, because if you deal with this issue, then that's going to show that most states, if not all, have not had a legally administered or a legally certified election in quite some time.
Yeah.
I mean, so that creates a dire constitutional crisis. And many, like in my case, right, we had significant evidence, irrefutable significant evidence, that the judges who presided over the cases themselves were irrefutably conflicted. I mean, we have judges that should have disqualified themselves, but said, you know what? No, there's no problem here. Doesn't matter that I'm a material witness concerning this matter. I'm going to rule on it anyways, because I need to protect the machine. And so, but we're seeing this, we saw this, we saw the judicial corruption in the General Flynn case. We saw it in the Roger Stone case. We've seen it in the Donald Trump cases. We're seeing it all across America. And, they're saying, oh, well, you don't have standing. That's absolute ridiculous. They did have standing. And these election cases need to be litigated on the merits, not on some highly focused technicality. And so, next step for me personally is, trying to get my case appealed to the next higher authority. We'll see how that goes. Same thing for Rocky Rockford. He's trying to get his case heard on the floor of the House, but there seems to be some resistance, or I take that back, not resistance, subversion there. There seems to be some subversion of the law and of the process. And the way things are continuing over in Palm Beach County, I'm scared for Jeff Bongiorno, because I don't know that the judge is going to rule according to the law. Yeah. Because I mean, today the judge, the judge had a serious conflict of what was verbally ruled versus what was ruled in an order, and that's a conflict. And we're seeing a lot of conflicts within the courts where you have multiple conflicting opinions, between the circuit, between the District Court of Appeals, at the federal level, and all the way up to the Supreme Court.
Yeah. Well, we're going to have you back when that drops, but thank you for all the updates. Anything else you want to get out?
Yeah. Hold your public officials accountable. Hold these judges accountable. And, if you're seeing if you're seeing these election officials being represented by outside law firms, you need to ask the question, is my tax dollar being used there?
Yeah.
And if your tax dollar is being used there to fight the fraud allegations, to fight to fight lawsuits over election transparency and election integrity, then you people need to get involved. And if it's going on here in Florida in the gold standard state, it's going on elsewhere as well.
Totally. Chris, thank you. And by the way, you can find Chris's writing at miamiindependent.com, which has been a very effective paper down in South Florida, across Florida, actually. But tell us, your Substack is active too. Tell us about that.
Yes, I have a Substack. It's called Immutable Truth Elections at .substack.com. And come check out our AI that we've been building. It's called realtruth.ai. And it's in beta testing. And, feel free to support us there.
Thank you, Chris. We'll have you back, I'm sure, for the 102nd time. Take care. All right. Bye.